Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session run by Slack. We will give members just a minute or two to get settled and join the session before getting started. Feel free to use the chat, introduce yourselves. I'd love to know, where you're from, and your name. Just some light conversation before we get into the presentation itself. Again, for those of you that are just joining, welcome to the session. It will be run by Slack, and we're going to give it about 15, 30 more seconds. Hey, Lisa, thanks for joining. All right, we got Aaron from Calgary. All right, I think we will get started. Keep the introductions going in the chat. We also have a Q&A. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But welcome, everybody. Super excited to have you attending and watching this session. Today, we're going to be discussing reimagining internal communications with Slack. My name is Spencer. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm a customer success manager at Slack. My role at Slack is to work with our enterprise customers, make sure that they are launching Slack and they're set up for success, and then continuing to work with them on driving new ways of working in Slack. Our agenda this afternoon is going to cover an overview of Slack and channel-based collaboration, and then we're going to share some strategies specifically about bringing your communications plans into Slack. Throughout the presentation, I'll also highlight a few key product features that were designed specifically with communication leaders in mind. On a personal note, I love working with internal communication leaders. They are some of my favorite people to work with, both in terms of just the excellence of delivery and work that they do, but also with the scope of the work. They really do touch every area of an organization and play a critical role. So exciting to share some of these, what we call organizational-wide use cases that apply directly to Slack. As we run through the presentation, I encourage you to use the chat to share some best practices, experiences that we have or you have. I'm already seeing some chatter about how work isn't possible without Slack. That's incredible. There may be folks that are brand new to Slack, and this information is really helpful for them. Hopefully, if you're a champion or a product expert, you also walk away with a few tips and tricks. We also have a question and answer tab. So as we go through the presentation, if you have questions, feel free to write those in. We want to make this as interactive as possible. I'll try to answer those on the fly. If not, we'll reserve some time at the end of this session to go through some of the questions that come up. Again, if you're just joining, welcome. Thanks for joining this session. We are going to be talking about reimagining internal communications with Slack, sharing some best practices, and inspiring new ways of working. I wanted to start off the presentation with a bit of an overview of Slack. Again, some of you may be familiar with the tool, have used it for years. Some of you might be brand new to Slack. For those of you who aren't familiar, Slack is a channel-based collaboration platform. Slack brings together the right people, tools, and data, and really helps drive alignment across your organization. You can think of Slack as a digital office or a persistent place for people to connect and find information. Sometimes we like to say that Slack stands for a searchable log of all communication and knowledge, a bit of a backronym, but the idea here is that the information that goes into Slack becomes a searchable repository of knowledge and information that you can pull upon wherever you're at, be it in the office, be it work from home, and across your device types, mobile, desktop, as well as our browser. Slack can also multiply productivity or amplify productivity within your organization and within your team, and really enhance the value of other tools that you're integrating with Slack. So Slack is an open platform. It connects with other enterprise tools. We have over 2,000 apps in our app store that you can access, and they're out-of-the-box solutions. So thinking about perhaps voice and video calling, thinking about project management, all of the tools that you as internal communications leaders use will largely integrate with Slack. So think about this as we go through the presentation. While it may not be the focused, it's going to help you organize some of those communication activities in Slack. And Slack is the only enterprise-grade solution that does all of this. From our free plan all the way to our enterprise grid offering, there's a different solution for your specific needs as a business. I'd be remiss if I didn't speak about channels. Channels are the foundation of your workspace. Really, they represent digital inboxes that can be created to reflect the existing knowledge networks within your organization, or the structures, again, that are unique to each of your specific businesses. When channels are organized by specific topic, each conversation has a place, and people begin to know where to go to ask a question, to give an update about a project that they're working on, or just simply to get caught up. Personally, I love Slack because I can go away for, a couple days, and then instead of getting, hundreds of emails, I can look in Slack, view those specific channels that I've organized by, priority, and quickly get up to speed by consuming the information that has, been discussed while I was away. And when organizations and individuals start to use channels, some exciting things start to happen. You begin to drive alignment across your team or across your business. Priorities can be established, discussed and approved, and then cascade down to different team members with a new level of openness and transparency. You begin to increase organizational agility because teams can dive in, get up to date, get progress, and make progress faster on specific projects, and just have a common understanding and a place to work within your organization. And then lastly, that element of culture, which is so unique to Slack. Our mission really is to make your working lives simpler, more pleasant, and more productive. And Slack makes conversation much more human. You have the ability to upload, a profile photo of yourself, to create a username, but then also to leverage, conversational, messages, to use emojis to show gratitude, and just to build on the existing culture that already, is the foundation of your workplace. So now let's talk about bringing your communication strategy into Slack, specifically your internal communication strategy. I want to first acknowledge the importance of internal communication leaders such as yourselves, and really thank you for doing the important work that you do to drive alignment across your organization, to amplify the voice of your employees, and really just simply to move your business forward. I think current world events have really highlighted how critical your role is. And your communication plan and your communication strategy will likely incorporate a number of different types of activities. This could be announcements that are delivered through, monthly or even weekly newsletters. It might be town halls, executive AMAs, or reporting on public earnings if you're a public company. Again, there are a number of different activities, and each of these activities is going to have a specific cadence and medium for delivery. What we'll be anchoring on today is really the distribution of information through announcement channels and how to optimize this process for your organization or for your team. So where to begin? If you recall, channels open up communication across your organization and provide you with a flexible and scalable way to distribute information. Again, these channels can reflect knowledge networks, structures, topics, and you can archive information as it no longer becomes relevant, or change, a particular topic or purpose of a channel as that evolves organically. The benefit also is that messages are saved and searchable in the future. So you're going to have a historical reference of some of these really important announcements that you're making across your organization, which really kind of creates an exciting timeline, for others as they're joining to catch up and get up to speed. Here are the 3 simple steps for getting started as a customer success manager. Part of my job is really to break these ideas down and make them actionable for you. So, in 3 simple steps, thinking about company announcements, first, establish the channels. Then look at creating your guidelines. And then third, engaging your employees. So jumping back to that establishing an announcement channel strategy. When you're doing this, you're going to be asking yourselves questions like, what channels are required? Again, I'm an advocate of start small, walk, crawl, run. Think about what are the core announcement channels that you need. Is it just a simple global channel or a channel for everyone in your organization? You can also start to break down by location. Is it a region that needs a specific channel, either within, Canada, within the US, West Coast, East Coast, or globally, in Europe or APAC? You might also think about team channels. So announcement channels that are for specific teams, again, mirroring what the organizational structures might be within your organization. You'll also want to ask yourselves who gets access to posting in channels. And I'll talk a little bit about posting permissions later, which is restricting, to specific sets of individuals. And then thinking about, is there a standard naming convention so that individuals can search and join these channels at ease, when it's important to them, or know where to go to find specific information. Next is really creating those guidelines to reinforce some of those channels that exist today. So again, are you clearly stating the topic or purpose of a specific channel? Can you or are you establishing a cadence for posts? So again, socializing that information is going to be shared on a weekly or monthly basis for employees. And they know to go to a specific channel to consume that information and to get up to date. And, are you starting to standardize the template? So again, thinking about scalability, do you have a template that you use? How much information is the right type of information to share? And, maybe are you cross-posting this information? So is it living in, your global or announcements all channel, and then being shared to those specific regional or team channels that apply. Next is engaging employees. So thinking about, are you using default channels? What is the onboarding experience? So when someone new comes to Slack, are they going to be already members of the channels that they are a part of? Do you have the right people in those channels? Who's going to monitor specific threads or replies or responses? And then are you allowing users to respond or react to certain messages as a way to gauge, sentiment or, their overall response to specific channels? So again, 3 simple steps, for establishing your announcement channels, and really just some simple things to consider as you're building out that process. Don't be afraid to start small, build off of that, and see what works for your organization. I want to talk next about announcement channel examples. So again, common examples here. Channels for everyone or announcement channel for global or all, by location, team, or by a combination of team and location. One important or one area and an idea for you is also to think about specific channels for roles. So channels for your executives, channels for management, and channels for individual contributors. Within Slack, you have the ability to set channels as private. And so you can make specific channels private. Again, those might be your e-staff channels. Those might be your management channels. Another thing to think about for channels is specifically channel naming conventions. So are you creating standard prefixes and suffixes? This is going to help make that information more discoverable and surfaceable within Slack. So channel naming, pretty flexible here. Up to 80 characters, alphanumeric, all lowercase. Again, thinking about naming to make it easier to find, and then individuals can customize their sidebar and create specific sections for those announcement or team channels. I'd mentioned posting permissions a little bit earlier. This is a way to make your channels and read only. I do want to call out that this is available on our Plus and Enterprise plans, so not available for free or standard plans. What this feature does is it allows you to restrict posting permissions to specific admins or groups of individuals. So again, this could be you as individual communication leaders. It could be your e-staff. What it does is it makes the channel read only. This avoids anybody unknowingly or intentionally posting in that channel and notifying the channel or anyone who has those notifications turned on. But it still allows users to thread or react to those specific messages. So another helpful feature to think about with your communication planning. A lot goes into those specific announcement posts that you share in channel. So just talking a little bit about the planning process behind that. Again, considering leveraging private channels with your communication team or executive. And this is where you can draft or discuss topics to include in those newsletters that are going out. You can create a channel for ideas. Again, cross-posting or sharing exciting company announcements, good news stories or company wins that might be considered for the newsletter. It's also an opportunity to loop in that communication council, or executive team that is delivering the newsletter or, having input and approving that. We've seen a simple, use of emojis to create that type of an approval process. We here at Slack often use the 2 eyes to indicate that we're looking into something, and a green check mark to indicate that it has been approved. Also, when submitting, questions or comments, we often use a circle with a color to indicate the priority. So a red circle meaning high priority, a blue circle meaning, medium priority, and a white circle meaning low priority. We also recommend creating saved templates in Slack. So reusing templates, again, you can create that template and pin it in your organization or coordination channel. And that really makes creating those newsletters a lot faster because you're simply pulling the information that you want to share, and then including that in that post, getting approval, and then resharing that in the appropriate channel. One objection that we often hear from customers is that, when you're bringing announcements from email into Slack, that, in email or in their internal intranet, those messages often look a little bit more beautiful. And, we've thought of that, and it's something that we're continuing to build on. I did want to share with you BlockKit. This may be new information, a little bit more advanced and available for all plans. But Slack has developed BlockKit to allow you to create richer, more interactive messages in Slack. Erica just shared the link to BlockKit. Copy that, save that, and open it. That'll give you an opportunity to play around. What you'll see is that BlockKit allows you to create messages that have images, hyperlinks, and buttons, and even specific sections. So again, a much richer experience. In this particular example, you can see a banner, you can see specific examples in sections, as well as links and buttons that they've included. As you navigate, you'll see that a lot of the functionality is drop and drag. So very low code, and accessible for non-technical users. And you can also leverage some of the existing templates that are already pre-populated, and or save your own templates once you've found something that really fits the brand or the feel of the announcements and posts that you want to share. Just an example of some of those block kits, again, emphasizing that really they are drop and drag, and there's some existing templates that exist for you to leverage. Next, I wanted to talk about message activity, to round things out and, think about how are you measuring engagement of your announcements, or how do you think about optimizing some of the activities that you are bringing in from your standard, internal communication strategy into Slack. Message activity was, created to really surface engagement analytics and display this information directly from within Slack. And it's a new feature available, again, available for our Plus and Enterprise Grid customers. Really, you can now start to optimize those channel-based messages by understanding the reach and engagement of your important messages. So when I think of the direct benefits of access to some of this analytics, or measurement within Slack, it really helps you understand the reach. So who is reading, where, and when are they reading some of the announcements or larger messages that you're sharing that contain important information. It's going to help inform, in the future, when is the best time to post and share this information? And also, what is the, device type that individuals are consuming this information that might then modify how you are drafting and creating those messages. And then internally, starting to benchmark, what is the overall effectiveness of your communication plan? So for those announcements, how many, individuals are reading them in channel? And what is the overall engagement and sentiment that goes into, or that is coming from those messages? So here's a quick overview of, what metrics are available today. Again, this is, a focus for Slack, and we'll continue to build out, this metrics and these capabilities, particularly looking at starting to benchmark, what is best in class for particular companies and or specific industries. But there are 4, key metrics that are available today. That is activity over time, client device, so where messages are typically being read, is it desktop, mobile, or browser? Looking at top replies, and then you can also look at viewers by department, if this information is being pulled in from some of those external Active Directories that might be set up today. So as we look at activity over time, this is going to look at the unique viewers in Slack. So how many of your users in Slack are viewing? Again, you can get a sense of, the overall, read kind of rate of those particular messages. It's also going to show you reacted, clicked, and shared. Diving into what that means. Reactions are emojis, or reacties as we call them internally. This is a way to Again, show gratitude, show sentiment, thumbs up for this looks awesome, hands pressed together for kind of thank you, or a bowing person for thank you. Also click. So if you have particular links or buttons in your announcement posts, how many individuals are actually clicking on that? So again, another way to gauge how actively engaged they are with the content. And then shared. So are these messages being shared across specific channels? You may be posting in announcement channels. Are individuals sharing these messages in their team channels or in those other announcement channels that are set up for regions and or departments? Click, client device is really the where your message is being read. This is really insightful and interesting, particularly as we move to more of a distributed or remote working environment, and move towards a more mobile first type of work. This is going to show that breakdown of where that message is first being read. Are people pulling it up on their phones, or are they using it on the app or browser? A great example that I like to share here is that our internal communications team is starting to see that we're moving to more mobile first when it comes to announcements. And so again, the format of the particular announcements that they're sharing is starting to be tailored more to a mobile device. Shorter, more bite-size, consumable information and or more point form information that appears a little bit easier to digest on a mobile device. You also, can look at views by department. Another insight to show you, how or where this information is being consumed, specifically by department. Are there specific departments that are not reaching, and that you're not able to reach, and that are not reading those specific, metrics? And again, kind of double click or dive into some of those trends. And understand, is there the sales team that isn't necessarily looking, and how can we tailor or get them the information that they need? So again, just an overview of the message analytics, which is a new feature to Slack. This is available on our Plus and Enterprise grid. An important thing to note about message activity is that it's only available on public channels. So again, designed for announcements, particularly channels that have over 50 members. And this message activity will only be available for 90 days, following, the specific day of April 16th, which I had to do in my head. Again, similar to message or posting permissions, it can be restricted, or it is restricted to admins, but can be opened up for communication leaders like yourselves. I would say if you don't have access today, ping your admin and get access. Also maybe consider giving access to your e-staff who might be interested in some of these analytics. And get started in establishing what some of those benchmarks are and diving into the analysis. Here's how you would view it. You would hover over the message, click on the three horizontal dots or ellipsis, and then pull up message activity. It would show those activity metrics that were displayed on the previous slides. So just a bit of a recap. We covered a couple things today: Slack and channel-based collaboration. We also talked about establishing your communication strategy and breaking that down into 3 simple steps: creating your announcement channel, implementing your channel guidelines, and then engaging your employees. There were also some tips and tricks that were shared today. Think about naming conventions, making information searchable, discoverable, managing posting permissions, so considering making channels announcement only, and then creating richer, more interactive posts through BlockKit. And then we wrap things up by understanding and optimizing our communication strategy by leveraging message analytics. At this point, we've more or less run the clock. It looks like there may be some time for a question or two. Let me quickly jump over to the question and answer these. Understand that if you need to jump, feel free to move to the next session. But I did want to address some of these questions. So the first question, can we have more than one read-only announcement channel? Absolutely. So you can, again, consider what channels it makes sense. There's an unlimited number of announcement channels. I would start with those global or team or regional announcement channels to start, and then work with your communication council to think about, again, are there other areas where you want to distribute information and move that side conversation to a threaded conversation? So great question. The answer is yes. Unlimited number of announcement channels if it's available to you. There's another question about highlighting certain messages as a to-do list or an action item. There's a couple ways that you can do that. That's a fantastic question. Thank you, Christy. A couple recommendations for using Slack in terms of project management. One way is to save messages. So if you hover over the message, you'll see a little icon that kind of looks like a ribbon. By clicking on that, it's going to save it. In your channel navigation or the left-hand sidebar, you'll see a section for saved. All of those saved messages will be able to be pulled up by clicking on the saved messages. Another way that individuals are doing that is by leveraging reminders. So again, if you hover over your message, click on the three dots, you can see the reminder, and you can remind yourself of that message within a specific time frame, 30 minutes, an hour, or customize it. When that reminder comes up, Slackbot, which is a built-in bot within Slack, will send you a notification and remind you of that message. There's a question about the free plan and the number of messages that are available under that. Within our free plan, you have up to 10,000 messages that are stored and retained that you have access to. If you upgrade to a paid plan, you will get the entire history of all of those messages past 10,000. So those messages are saved for you, and you can unlock that history by moving to a paid plan. I'll do one more question as the numbers are starting to dwindle. Can you see metrics on an individual level? No, this is only available on announcement channels, public channels with over 50 messages. And again, the idea here is that we're providing surface level information for you to have a better understanding. It isn't necessarily designed to be kind of a big brother tool. We're a huge advocate of openness and transparency within your organization. So I want to wrap things up. Those were fantastic questions. Thank you so much for attending this session. I hope that you all have walked away with some tips and tricks with Slack. If you have future questions or you want to continue the conversation, feel free to email feedback@slack.com. That's our incredible customer experience team. They'll be able to help answer some of your questions, or visit our help center at get.slack.com. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your conference. Appreciate your time today.